the Prime Minister of the country swears in. It's a historic swearing in, no doubt. Third time he's going to become Prime Minister. Only the second time in the history of India will the same person be sworn in for 3 consecutive terms as Prime Minister. Congratulations are due his way. I'm sure he's received plenty in the past few days, but the business of getting to work, I'm been told, has already started, and that's the plan. What you're seeing on your screens is what we suspect is going to be the next Team Modi cabinet 3.0. Okay, it might be all of the people on your screens, it might be some of the people on your screens, it might be most of the people on your screen, but we suspect these are the people who are going to be returning or being entering into the Modi cabinet. They have a job to do. Now, the politics is going to continue, unfortunately, despite whatever we've seen in the past 2 months. You think, okay, political season, elections are over. No, the politics continues. That's the job of politics, to continue. The job of opposition is to be a prick in the side of everything the government tries to do. That's going to happen. But we have to now get things done at a scale unimaginable, the speed unimaginable. We have to hit a pivot point in our civilizational ethos, in our story of an independent country. And for that, we need to get going. In order to get going, let me make as much of an effort as possible to now disambiguate, disaggregate the complete political mess that elections do often bring upon us, knowing full well the results are now out. Joining us on the broadcast, Gautam Mukherjee is with us, Rajalakshmi Joshi back with us, Jayjeet Bhattacharya joining us, and Professor Madhav Nalpat stays on with us. Let me go to Professor Nalpat. Professor Nalpat, what then become, let's get going, let's get this done priorities?
Look, Rishabh, it's an absolute must for the government that they have to get going. Why? Because India is becoming what the Prime Minister said, NDA. A stands for aspirational. That's what he said. And aspirational India, some elements of it were wanted much more. And a lot has been done. They wanted much more. So you have to deliver that quote unquote much more in this term. And I think the Prime Minister is very focused on that. And if I may say so, now there are some very good pointers to 3.0 being a double-digit growth period, and significantly over double-digit growth. And first is, of course, as I said, the question of inward investment. It's going to rise significantly, and there is enough fiscal cushion to ensure that you have a tax structure that can attract people from outside. At the same time, that will ensure that you have domestic industry growing. And Prime Minister Modi never said make by India. He said make in India. Those two letters are very important. It's make in India, not by India. So he welcomes companies from across the world, companies that are frankly friends of it, from companies that are from friendly countries, not hostile countries, and he welcomes them all to come to India. So he wants to make in India. What he means by Atmanirbharta is that whatever we need, we can produce at home. And we have the manpower, we have the resources, and if we have a lot of foreign investment as well, we'll have all the essentials that we need.
All right. Let me get Jayjeet in on this because Jayjeet, then where all and how all. So I was giving the example. You have incremental growth, things keep on improving, and suddenly, hey presto, one day you have a major software industry. Or it is exponential growth. There are even pivot points. I mentioned the point that you took one individual to go to Japan, then bring in and build a steel foundry in India, and he completely pivoted something that did not exist. Now, which part of all of these do we need?
So let's first focus on, what is the time bomb that we're sitting on? The time bomb that we're sitting on is that we should be able to grow rich before we grow old. We have 50% of our population below the age of 25, which is great. But if we do not have the regulatory environment, the policy environment for each of them to become extremely productive in the next 5 to 10 years, then we'll end up having a large population of poor people, and that is a time bomb that we are sitting on. And hence what we would need to do is continue to build the infrastructure, but also have large leaps like the one that you mentioned in every sector that we're talking about, which includes not just industry, but even food. And by food, I don't mean agriculture, but We need to start producing food in factories. I've mentioned that multiple times with climate change coming in. That's going to be a big disruption. We need to have the technologies to build food within factories. And so we need to therefore create technologies which do not exist. And those are the disruptions we need to bring in addition to what we have been doing, which is getting in industries from outside. And even though the geopolitical conversations was anti-India, the money on the table was always being put in for India. So we have had the largest amounts of inbound investments coming in. We have also had the largest amounts of remittances coming in, unprecedented in any other part of the world at any other point in time. And those have been very good, beginnings. We need to continue to do that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with a little weakened political system, the faith might be little questioned as we move forward, and that's a dangerous trend that might come in. Because already we have if you look at the global narration that seems to be fairly anti-India, it seems to be unbalanced, and along with it, if there is a sniff that there is a bit of a political instability, then we will run into a challenging time because we don't have any time to lose right now.
Okay, we have no time to lose, and hopefully that doesn't happen. That yes, if you want to get a nuclear deal done, you don't have to face the left trying to bring down your government. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Unlikely that is going to happen. That's a worst case scenario. But does it stop or hobble or anything at all? We've been having this conversation. We shall continue to have this conversation. Let me quickly try to get Gautam Mukherjee into this. Anurag Naidu also joining us. Gautam Mukherjee, obviously now there's no time to waste. The politics will keep on going on. This is good, that is bad, this is not okay, this is okay. But we are expecting a Narendra Modi to do a lot of things in 100 days. Do you think, whatever the plan is, we don't know the plan yet. We have a hint of the plan, but we don't know the plan. Do you think that's on track or something is being shelved?
As far as economic priorities go, I don't think the changed scenario, such as it is going to make any adverse impact. As far as Hindutva issues go, they will be on the back burner for the entire 5 years. There is nothing that this government can do about that. The real threat, I feel, comes from losing in a number of states. So the urgency is in reforming the party and its aggression in terms of winning elections in the forthcoming states, because they will be flashpoints of the opposition waking up all over again in the hope of toppling this government.
No, but the opposition is awake. They are going to stay awake, hopefully on a little bit of coffee that they've gotten in the past couple of weeks. And that's a good thing. But at what point of time does the opposition buy in on the agenda? Do they, Gautam Mukherjee, say, as you're watching live shots from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, do they come and say that there are certain things we can all agree on, or do you expect opposition for the sake of opposition?
I expect opposition for the sake of opposition, unfortunately, because the tone and tenor of opposition in recent times has not had very much logic to it. It is a question of opposing the Modi government, wrong or right.
Okay, all right. Stay with me. Let me get Anurag Naidu into this. Anurag, now we have to get things going. Now, like it or not, we are all coming out of a political cycle. For a lot of people who are just, participants in the political cycle, they were saying, okay, bhai, politics ab hogi, now let's get to work. But the politics is not khatam hogi. It's going to continue. It's going to happen. What can be done quickly? Do you expect the 100-day agenda of Narendra Modi to be largely intact, and from tomorrow morning he'll make sure that you and I are sitting here debating some big ticket item every day and don't have a chance to take a holiday?
Yeah, well, I think there are a couple of things where Prime Minister Modi is personally unhappy with the way government has performed, and these are agriculture and irrigation reforms. These are the sectors where Prime Minister Modi is a bit unhappy for the fact that the government did not handle the situations well. The government did not we have get it act together before, that this is really where, the Haryana and the UP belt, started showing up anger on the streets, and we could have, the messaging would have been perfect. The dealing of the situation could have been better. So I would say these are the sectors which Prime Minister Modi would definitely like to focus on. But second, one very important thing that I got to know from my, of course, being in the industry body actively, is that Prime Minister Modi has a very strong global focus, and India has been a service-based economy. The economic engines that we drive at a global platform, it's majorly service-driven. We are not a product-driven economy or industry-driven economy. So Industry 4.0, how do we accelerate the product-based economy in India? Try to build a product-based economy, because you can't survive for long from a service industry. We have very stiff challenge from Vietnam, Taiwan, even Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. These are the emerging economy. The per hourly, the engineering rates, or maybe the manpower rate, you can say, are far lower than India. So you're getting stiff challenge, and when Pakistan picks up, the other growing economy picks up, you can't really survive from a service economy. So we need to accelerate from a product economy. Science and innovation, that is somewhere the focus has really not been, up to the mark. So
Okay, so we know the problems, but I'm trying to see which are the, because incremental growth is no longer good enough. Okay, GDP growth of 4-5% is no longer good enough. It has to be 10, 11, 12, 13%. For that to happen, we have to get some fundamental things changed. Now, let me get Professor Nalapat in on this. Professor Nalapat, now I'll give an example and let's extrapolate for the example. Okay, we have built in the last 10 years 95,000 kilometers of national highways. We've built 3.7 lakh kilometers of rural roads. All of this has happened without you and I having to once discuss, debate and discuss and have a political conversation that a massive land acquisition andolan is going on in the country because of road acquisitions. So something fundamentally different has happened in what used to be one of the core problems. What have we gotten right there, and how do we extrapolate that to other things?
Well, the first thing is that infrastructure is extremely important for growth. And the second thing is, if you ask me, that there has to be what the people who are, whose land has been taken away regard as fair compensation. One way of doing that would possibly be to take over double the land and give half back to whoever is contributing to the land. So that half, once the highway is built, you will have immensely high value for that half. That is one idea. There could be many other ideas. So it's important to ensure that private property is safe in India. Let me say, Rishabh, over the last, from 1947 until I would say the Modi dispensation, private property was not sacred in India, in the sense that governments have taken over private property merrily, at whim, and they are paid either no compensation or ridiculously low compensation. And then you go to the court system, and unfortunately, several of these cases have been lingering for years and years and decades. You must have security of investment, security of property, and I honestly believe that, as you correctly said, the Prime Minister is very focused on all that. I've been getting signals from people who are working with him that he's very focused on all that. And as a consequence, you are going to see a quantum leap in India, because Modi 1.0 and Modi 2.0 were the trailer.
Okay, okay. So what are we getting? Let me get Jayjeet on this. Jayjeet, let's look back at Ratan Tata trying to build a car factory. Okay, everybody wants him to build the car factory. It's made in India. It's a car for Indians. It's going to be a world record cheap car. Okay, we all want it to happen. But the sore point becomes land to build the factory. Now, what have we gotten right? That we haven't had to sit and see major land disputes, that there are not tens of thousands of people out on the roads saying we are upset because the government is taking away our land. What have you gotten right?
Yeah, I think even in the case of the Tata Motors building the plant, many of the farmers were actually gaining, and that farmland never got reverted. So they are in a limbo, and they were able to, if the factory had come up there, they could have actually targeted the southeastern market, which is a prime market for two-wheelers, and they could have got upgraded to four-wheelers. So what have we got right is the decisiveness and the ability to communicate that what's coming up is good for the people, and second, the appropriate compensation. And that has been happening through and through. It's not just for the central government projects. If you look at the pattern, even in the state government projects, many of the state government projects that has happened, let's say even in UP for that matter, the land has been taken and compensation has been given then and there by empowered officials standing on the road. And so it's not just the correct amount of compensation, but also at the right time, not after 2 months, 5 months, but immediately on the road. So that has given the assurance to people that they're going to gain out of it. Second, by building road, whatever land is left back, the value of that land goes up. Unlike some other infrastructure like railways, because the railway line just passes through the land, it doesn't really add value to the land around it. So you'll see that there is little resistance to land being taken for roadways per se because of the nature of the infrastructure and then the way it has been executed. Also, I think there has been an all-round support from the nation per se, because people understand that what's holding us back has been the lack of infrastructure, primarily roads and everything else also, it's airports and ports, but roads has been something that has been visible.
Okay, so let me take that premise. So that's an example. What were the major issues in the country? The major issues in the country were that if you wanted to set up a project, all those projects, from the roadways to the airports to the industrial parks to the SEZs, all required land. Land is less of a problem because we've solved it in exactly what Jayajit has explained. You pay the market rate or better than the market rate, and you pay it in a timely fashion, and then you tell the person when the highway is built here, you can set up your dhaba or your hotel or your car repair workshop and earn more. That person now is a willing collaborator in the economic progress, not somebody who's a willful opponent or willing to give up his life to prevent you from building that highway. So we can do it. Then, Jayajit, let's jump into the difficult one, the one we could not do, which was agrarian reform.
It's not that all the farmers are opposed to it. We have had debates on your channel, on your show, where it was clear that it was a segment of North Indian farmers who were benefiting, who were benefiting from the existing system, which was basically based on taxpayers and not really, letting the farmers be free to experiment to come out with new crops. Also, that's a system that's shooting up the price of farmland, and therefore you will see in places like Punjab, because the cost of land is high, industry is not setting things up. If industry doesn't set up their factories, then how will you suck out labor from agriculture into industries? So it becomes a vicious cycle. Because of the subsidies and the structure of agriculture that we have set up, people are stuck in it. Land prices have gone up. It's easy money coming to big farmers. Small farmers and laborers are still suffering. And because of that, industry is not coming up.
Okay.
We have had debates where how do we double the income of farmers on this on your channel.
Yes.
And the issue has been the only way to double the income of farmers without leading to food inflation is to half the number of farmers. We can't have 60% of the population doing farming. That is just not sustainable anywhere in the world, be it developed or developing.
Okay, the developed countries, remember, have 1 or 2% or 3%. All of them still give subsidies, humongous subsidies to farmers. The Americans do, the Europeans do, to the tunes of tens of billions of dollars and euros, okay? But it does happen, but the percentage employed in farming is 1 or 2% compared to more than 50%, which is here in India, which is why it's still a big political issue. In fact, the American farmers would tell you that they wish they had more numbers so that could become a political issue. On your screens, as you're watching, Ajit Pawar arriving, I'm being told Rashtrapati Bhavan is now getting packed as you're seeing live visuals on your screen. Praful Patel arrived a short while ago as well. Lots of people are coming in. In fact, you see Praful Patel is with him there. So that ends that conversation. Let me get Rajalakshmi Joshi back into this conversation on that note. Rajalakshmi Joshi, so there is a government that needs to get things done. Okay. But at the same time, mind space has to be found because there's an election in Maharashtra, and then what do we do with NCP and Sharad Pawar? I mean, how does a Narendra Modi now find time for both?
There are a lot of complicated issues, Rishabh. Like, we were talking about the farm laws. Similarly, in Maharashtra, there is this issue of the Maratha reservation. Now, for the BJP, it was a little complicated to resolve that, because the person at the helm of affairs was a Brahmin, Mr. Devendra Fadnavis. So for the BJP, I'm saying. So he has left it almost practically to Mr. Eknath Shinde, who is able to relate better, and he is able to communicate better with these parties. So that actually, I think that, in that way, the alliance actually works in resolving this issue. Otherwise, it would have been a little tricky, because Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, every time he starts a conversation with them, they bring in the Brahmin factor. So they, according to them, he doesn't understand their issues. He does, but it becomes a very
Okay.
important factor when resolving this issue.
So these are
Now,
factors. Yeah.
yes, these are.
So they are factors. Like I said, politics continues, and the question then, only thing on our mind is how do we get on with it? What do we get on with, and can there be political consensus? And how much can Anurag? Can there be? Are we expecting opposition for the sake of opposition, or are we expecting constructive opposition? The constructive opposition is the kind that tells you, okay, this is a good thing to do. Let's get it done. This we disagree with, so this can't happen. Or are we expecting no matter what Narendra Modi does, it's going to be, we hate it, it sucks, never going to happen?
Yeah, I think I would use the word, and we're going to have a naughty opposition. And, if you see some of the recent discourses of, let's name Rahul Gandhi, right, in many issues, when the time is given to speak on a particular relevant topic and he gets the photograph of Adani ji ne ye kar diya, Adani ji ki photo aa gayi. So I think there is a personal attack, and the personal, whenever you get a space, the time is not used for some constructive discussions. I really hope this time, having a very relatively strong opposition than the last two terms, they pick up some really constructive debates. They have really good, fine speakers. Let's admit that they've got a good bunch of people who can speak on really nice subjects, very good content. I think they should be also given fair amount of chance. So, like the entire news about Rahul Gandhi, everyone requesting him to become the leader of opposition. I don't think we need that in a democratic system when you have such a vibrant opposition. When we say Congress although got 100, there are three other parties that have got.
Anurag, the question is, what is the constructive part of the opposition? Okay, that we are enhancing the job of government by taking a fine-tooth comb through the policies of government, versus it doesn't make a difference if the government wants to do the most pious thing in the world, even if they build even if they are redeveloping the garden around the Mahatma Gandhi statue in Parliament, even that's a problem. I mean, after a point, it becomes ridiculous. So what do you suspect is going to happen?
That is what happens, Rishabh, when you focus on only one personality, one individual. Why can't an opposition have a shadow cabinet? Why can't 10 of 60 people in the opposition man to man mark every minister and follow their work and stand up for that particular case when you are the subject matter expert of that domain? So that is how it works. So you cannot depend only one person to speak for every topic that is happening in India, and that is where you will never get a narrative.
That one person so far was Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, and I don't think Congress shed too many tears when Mamata Banerjee brought in Yusuf Pathan to defeat him, and he did, ironically. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary now genuinely has come out, and I think he was very serious when he said it, that I am genuinely worried about how to pay my bills. I don't even have any savings. That is what the Congress party, the situation they've left the leader of the opposition in, and we'll let the Congress party examine that. Let me get Gautam Mukherjee in on this. So Gautam ji, we have to get things done. We don't have time. We're running out of time with every second that passes. The opposition, we are assuming, has got its tail up. Do you suspect that they're going to come up with some good ideas, or they had some good ideas in their own manifestos from which the government can borrow and say, listen, you also had a good idea, and we are also going to be gracious enough to say that your idea was better than ours?
Well, in terms of the manifesto that has been revealed by the Congress, and they're about the only ones who have revealed a number of points there, but they are Stalinist, far left ideas dredged up, not even from the early days of Indian socialism, but they are out of Dr. Zhivago when he returns home and he finds the entire village in his house. That sort of idea. So I don't know how Modi is going to reconcile, his idea of becoming a developed country with anything that the Congress is going to throw up. Giving everybody 1 lakh of rupees a month, giving everybody a subsidy for nothing, is the antithesis of Modian welfare, which is, create opportunities for the poor, give them facilities, water, gas, electricity, roads, education, health. And this is not what the opposition has been about. They want dependency. They want people who are poor to get a handout, and that's about it. That's their idea of welfare. The two are not reconcilable.
Okay.
Will the opposition have a change of heart?
No.
I think that will happen.
They're not going to have a change of heart.
It's not possible.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But they might have a change of opposition leader in Lok Sabha. Who knows? It just might indeed be Rahul Gandhi. Let me get Jayjeet back into this. Jayjeet, okay, so why don't you list out what you would like to see done? Because we are still being reassured that the agenda is intact and the stuff that needs to happen is going to happen faster than you and I can, digest it.
One of the things that I've been saying in every single platform and that concerns me very deeply is neither the ruling party nor the opposition is taking up certain very critical issues such as pollution to begin with. The pollution was a non-election issue.
Yeah.
It's impacting everybody, 100% of the population. So the population doesn't care that there is pollution and therefore our voting pattern did not change. Climate change, it's on us. We know that. We've seen it. And for the last 3 years, I've been saying that every budget, there should be budgeting for a post-climate change scenario where we need increased number of silos to store food grains. Our target should be to have food grains for 4 years and not 2 years, and reevaluate the entire food security, energy security, ensure that there is ability to manage floods in large cities, and so on and so forth. So I think that's one big or two big areas, which is pollution and climate change. I would like to see more work to be done. In fact, one of your questions to the panelists was that what are the issues that the opposition should be taking? These are the kind of issues that opposition should take rather than winking in the parliament and making snide remarks. If the ruling party is missing out in certain large issues, the opposition should be taking these up.
Okay.
Also, the fact that we still need a faster and faster economic growth with stability for those who are falling behind, and therefore a stronger support system for the vulnerable sections while the rest of the economy is freed up for growth.
Okay, the $1 trillion question. Let me place it to Professor Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, 10% growth, how do we get there? We've been waiting for our entire lives for that moment.
Rishabh, the fact of the matter is that we are in an interlocking world system. We are not an island entire unto itself, as John Donne said. We are part of the global trading, commercial, and ecosystem. Talking about environment, a lot of the problems India is one of the lowest per capita emissions in the world, one of the lowest. We are not the problem. There are countries that are humongous per capita emission. There are countries that are humongous total emission, and our neighbor China is an example of that. So the problem is many of these problems can be resolved only in cooperation with other countries. And we saw Prime Minister Modi at work in G20. Nobody expected him, frankly, to have a unanimous statement at the end of the G20. The entire G20 year was conducted seamlessly and as broad a platform of unity as can ever be imagined.
Okay.
So I think it's very important to understand that India and the world, we need to march together. And that is where, for example, talking in terms of, in which that can happen, I do believe that this government is extremely focused on that.
Okay.
This government has got a good track record now of ensuring that there is de facto alignment with major friends of the country.
Okay, but
de facto alignment.
Yeah, but
and I think that's very, very important.
But Professor Nalapat, all of this, of course, then presupposes social stability. It presupposes security available. I mean, there's only X you can do with development in Manipur right now because there is a socio-political problem there. Because the socio-political problem in Kashmir is ebbing, you're obviously being able to do a lot more. So let's jump in on Punjab. Now, we've seen the socio-political problems coming out of Punjab literally overturn national policy, not to the betterment of the country. We have just seen a person who is aiding and abetting separatism at the grandest scale sitting in jail in Assam win an election. How do we crack this very, very difficult conundrum that is coming our way?
Rishabh, quite frankly, the voter in the Punjab, you look at the expenditure of government on, for example, MSP. The share of Punjab is huge, absolutely huge. And the fact is, we are only talking about freebies for the poor. You cannot have freebies for anybody, quite frankly. And if you're well off, then you don't need freebies. Why? Because the cropping system or the entrepreneurial system can ensure a higher income for you if you use your imagination and you take advantage of the opportunities offered. That is what Prime Minister Modi is offering, a full menu of opportunities rather than becoming chained to one particular crop, one particular system, and frankly, mostly in one particular state. So what happens is that when they feel that there is some risk of that, very cushy kind of a situation in which the taxpayer pays whatever, all the money and bears the subsidy, well, then they vote a protest vote. I believe there's nothing more than a protest vote for a simple reason that the Punjab knows very well what happened in the 80s and until the middle of the 90s. They're not going to go through with it again. I see it as a protest vote.
Okay, but a Punjab,
what Rahul Gandhi said, MSP for every crop. You can't do that. It'll bankrupt the country many times over.
But what is then? Anurag, what do we now need to get done? Because obviously, something has to be done. Punjab has a lot of problems. Number one of them is that we have an industrial policy in this country that says certain frontline sectors cannot be put into a border state. Okay. We have seen that the go-to places in this country, Punjab used to be the richest state in the country before partition, one of the largest states in the country. Then after partition, we partitioned Punjab again. We made Haryana and Himachal, remember, out of Punjab and the East, Patiala and the East Punjab States Union, which was created after partition. So in a state which is now not known, if you're thinking tech, you're thinking Bengaluru or even Tamil Nadu. Okay. If you're thinking redevelopment, you're thinking Maharashtra, you're thinking Gujarat. Okay. If you look at wealth centers, you think Bombay, you think Delhi. Who is thinking of Punjab now as a primary industrial resource, and how do we get it there?
Well, I think for a comprehensive growth, every single state needs to develop where they excel in. So if you see the nature of Punjab, it is more agrarian dependent state. So, if the nature of the state has been like that for geographical and historical reason, I mean, they excel in that. So I think we need to, give that enough support in that particular sector. So like you said, Bangalore has a very strong IT economy. So that's why the focus should be, when it comes to Bangalore, should be more from an outsourcing, from a global perspective. The policy should drive that more. But I would say Punjab, more of technological advancements in agriculture sector has to be, one of the front-ending keys. And also, Rishabh, I always mention, when you say this farm laws, farm crisis, agrarian crisis, I break it down into two parts. One is the core farming and second is the market. So the marketing and the marketplace itself is a huge task when you talk about, the bicholiye, the middlemen and everything. So you need to see how does the entire money that flows in the system is decentralized.
No, but we've Anurag, the problem is we've seen it, right? We know what a farmer gets paid per kilogram and what you and I pay per kilogram. Okay, it's straight 10x or 20x. Okay, if a farmer gets 1 rupee, we are paying 20 rupees. So we know it. This is not a mystery. It's not a secret. But we are being unable to crack it.
One important thing, Rishabh, out of it is one of the key drivers for a very good attaining 10% growth rate would be our logistics costs are still high. We do a lot of energy import. The bills that we pay for energy is very high. I mean, in America or any other developed country, you cannot have a logistic cost so high. The reason primarily now you have very good roads, but then again you need to give enough subsidy and support to the logistics sector.
Logistics, there are many. Logistics in food is fundamentally important. Not only because food is very price sensitive, okay, it's highly price sensitive, but also because it has a lower shelf life, right? So if you can make it from one city to the other in 2 hours rather than 8 hours, you are creating new markets that did not exist before. You even out prices, okay? Every year we are told onion prices have gone up because there's a problem in Nashik. well, if the roads are better, the onions can come from further afield. So it'll get balanced out, but these are not easy things to do. Let me get Raja Lakshmi Joshi on the fundamental premise. Raja Lakshmi Joshi, whether protest vote or otherwise, the people of Punjab at the state level voted the Aam Aadmi Party. At this time around, they said, okay, Aam Aadmi Party, we'll only give 3 MPs, all right, because we gave you an alternative, but we are not completely thrilled with that alternative at the national level. And let's face it, you had a landslide victory of a person who says there should be no Punjab, that there should be Khalistan. He's won votes, he's got lakhs of them. Now the people are upset. Whatever the reason they might be upset, they're upset. Now what do we do?
Yes, Rishabh, in Punjab, there are different, a lot of different complications there. Like, for example, there is this issue of the farmers, then there is this issue of drugs, then again there is this issue of the Khalistani elements, and another part, a big major concern is that it is a border state. So all of this put together, there are a lot of issues, and that was a major concern why especially, the BJP was a little concerned when a lot of these Aam Aadmi Party leaders, they were trying to appease the Khalistani elements. Because then this was the reason
No,
why...
but Raja Lakshmi, this is exactly the problem, no? If a person from Punjab says, I'm upset, we say that you are either a farmer or you're a druggie or you're Khalistani, and people get further upset. We're not solving the problem like this. The people of Punjab do not seem to be happy with affairs. They've tried the political combinations. They were unhappy with the Shiromani Akali Dal. They got rid of them. They gave the Aam Aadmi Party a chance. I don't know how thrilled they are with the Aam Aadmi Party. It seems it's 50-50 right now. They are not too happy with the BJP either. They're upset. Now they have to stay upset within the political system in this country. Now we can't just keep saying Khalistani, Khalistani all the time. We have to find out what the issue is and solve it. How do we go out there and solve it?
See, they feel that they have been alienated. They feel that their issues are not looked into. Like, especially during the farming protest, what was happening is there was a lot of misconception and there was a lot of misleading by some vested interests, of course. See, the farm laws were not wrong or they were not against the farmers per se. But there was this huge miscommunication, and I think that the BJP actually, one of the major things that they lack in is the miscommunication. They were not able to communicate to the farmers that this is actually in their interest. Like, they were looking at the interest of the farmers in the sense of they were trying to save them from the corporates who are in a lot of issues. They are actually they're not actually being very fair to the farmers. And also there is this thing about the middlemen. So it is as if the middlemen are gaining more and instead of the farmers.
There's an old quotation that says, I will never understand an issue if my job depends upon me not understanding the issue. Okay? So for the people who are vested, earn livelihoods from the system as it stays, do not want the system to change. That's not going to be different. But Jayajit Bhattacharya, let us for 1 second put everything else aside, because otherwise we'll get trapped in, if you question the farmer, you're anti-farmer. If you support the farmer, you're anti-national Khalistani. We are stuck somewhere in between. Surely the people of Punjab require a reinvention of the Punjabi economy for the betterment of the country. How do we go and offer a viable economic alternative for this to become palatable?
So, as we all know, Punjab was and continues to be an agrarian economy. There's been no agrarian economy that has become, large based on agriculture. There is a shift in the economic structure of Punjab that is needed. I think that those are things that everybody knows. So I'm just repeating something that everybody knows. And therefore, the primary question is, how do we bring in that shift? For the shift to happen, we need capital to move into Punjab, for which we need land to move into Punjab. We also need skills to move into Punjab. What is happening is that anybody who's getting skilled in Punjab is actually moving out of Punjab. So we need to hold them back while they are skilled, which also needs good cities to be in Punjab and rest of the country for that matter. But let's just stick to Punjab for a moment. So is there a quality of life in Punjab the same as quality of life in Canada? And that's the place that many of the Punjabis end up going.
Yeah.
So even if it's not the same, can it be at least 20%, 30% of what it is elsewhere? And therefore, it's a combination of lifestyle, getting the human skills in place, moving the capital into Punjab, getting land for the industries, and therefore making a comprehensive regulatory ecosystem that encourages all of this to happen in tandem, step by step.
Okay.
Now, what is happening is that people are trying to boil the ocean and cater to those who are already entrenched in certain economies, which is basically the agrarian economy, and therefore nothing is moving forward in that sense.
Okay, so when we're looking at textiles, sugar, other agricultural products as your primary driving force, obviously the future is not in it. The future has to be in value added to agriculture, or it has to be in services if indeed it is not an industry, and the jobs need to come there. But let me then ask the basic question, Gautam Mukherjee, if there is an unhappy Punjabi out there for whatever reason, our solution cannot be you anti-national Khalistani, okay, how dare you be unhappy? Our solution has to be, okay, we need to try to address the problems. So what do we think the problems are? Because some of the people might be duped by the farmers' agitation or misled by it, but all of them are not.
Well, Rishabh, if you look at it historically, there is a dichotomy. The people of Punjab are prosperous. I mean, there's lots of money sloshing about in the Punjab. But the government of Punjab has been bankrupt from the 1950s. There is enormous corruption in the government of Punjab. There is a huge amount of collaboration with vested interests. And that is how this
But
place...
why are they still leaving? What does Canada hold? That barren land with rocket high real estate prices. What does Canada hold in terms of aspiration that the Punjabi will still do anything, will sell the few bigas he has to book that ticket?
Well, it is an oligarchic system in Punjab. The people who are landowners, especially large landowners, are very rich because they don't pay taxes, they get the MSPs, and they have a high level of consumption, and it's all very well for them. But for the ordinary Punjabi peasant, the idea of going to a Western country, and Canada presents itself because there are already a large population of Sikhs in particular over there, about 7.5, 10 lakh Sikhs. So the ecosystem affords you opportunities to go there. Okay. And it is better than scrabbling on the ground.
Yeah, but that ecosystem is where then they are coming in and they're telling you, no, the solution is something extreme. Let me get Professor Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, what is the politics of Punjab telling us? It's telling us that we are not happy with the way the Shiromani Akali Dal has led us. We wanted to give the Aam Aadmi Party a chance. The BJP is not managing to convince us that they are in our team. We are sort of unhappy with the Congress also, but we are sort of a bit stuck. In fact, in some cases, many lakhs of us are so upset that we know this person is an extremist. We'll rather vote for him than any of the established political parties. There's a SOS call right there.
Rishabh, two things. One, the farmers' agitation, the role of the Arhatiyas, the middlemen who control the markets. They were very worried about that particular monopoly of markets going away. And what you said, that the farmer gets 1/10 of what is finally paid by the consumer. A lot of that profit goes into the middleman. I think that is a system that needs very quick change. And second problem is that, let's be honest, there have been, and fortunately this government acted very strongly on that. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar acted very strongly in sending back those diplomats. There were diplomats who from Canada who basically asked how deeply are you sincere about the Khalistan project? And if you were sincere, you'd get a sponsor back in Canada who will take you, and then you'll work as labor or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact is, unless you demonstrate that you are for Khalistan, well, actually you're not. Your only interest is in a good life, like everybody else. And the Punjabi is one of the most patriotic people in India. I mean, this has happened in plain sight of so many governments for decades, from the 1980s. And it took Narendra Modi to stop that and to send these diplomats back. And Justin Trudeau, because of his political reliance on certain elements,
Yes.
who want to keep
Yes,
the
but our
standing with them.
Our appeals to the morals of certain individuals may go unheard. So we will have to remove the temptation from having to go in the first place and be sucked into the quagmire, which is what Surrey in Canada currently is. And that's only going to happen if we now answer the SOS call. There is an SOS call. There seems to be a Punjabi saying that there is no political party that we are convinced that is representing our feelings at this point of time. We are so frustrated that in fact we'll rather vote for Amritpal, and that is troubling. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue these conversations, the serious ones, but you're watching live visuals on your screens that have been coming into Rashtrapati Bhavan, where the dog squads are there in waiting for the international head of government gathering that is taking place for the Prime Minister's third swearing-in ceremony. We've spoken to a lot of the individuals who met the Prime Minister earlier today, and we are suspecting that some, if not all of them, will see a cabinet induction. Certainly the number of chairs that have been put on the forecourt steps of the Rashtrapati Bhavan.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.